Well, hey there, freaks. It's your boy Marty here to introduce this week's episode with Aleks Svetski. Aleks was in New York City for the first time ever, so we swung by Williamsburg. Matt and I joined him to get an update on Amber and to talk about the separation of money and state. It was a very interesting conversation. This conversation was brought to you by the Cash App. If you freaks have not downloaded the Cash App yet and you're listening to this podcast, what the hell are you waiting for? Go do it now. Use the code STACKINGSATS. That's one word, STACKINGSATS. A little bit of a mouthful, but it's worth it. You're going to get $5. $5 is going to go to Owls Lacrosse, charity very near and dear to our hearts, based out of Chicago, helping young boys and girls learn leadership skills via the sport of lacrosse. And then once you use the code, you get the $5. You're going to be able to use the Cash App to stack sats, to sell sats if you have to. You're going to be able to send sats from your app to a personal wallet or from the personal wallet to the app. And then on top of that, you get the Boost program, which is incredible. I use my Boost card every day. You get a personalized Boost card, put your signature, a little Bitcoin sign on it. It gets sent to you. You can use it wherever Visa's accepted. They partner with merchants. They have deals for local coffee shops, Whole Foods. I used one for the MTA last week. It was a great boost. Saved me $1. Felt good. And then they're always adding and churning their boost partners. So always check up on that. Make sure you download the app. Use the code STACKINGSATS. And try out the Cash App. It's a great product. Again, I use it every day. And this episode is also brought to you by Casa. Casa dropping some hot news today. For you freaks who don't know already, they dropped the Casa Node 2. It's a faster, smoother Bitcoin Lightning experience running with a faster processor on the Raspberry Pi 4 with 4 gigabytes of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD, all packaged in a gorgeous new case, similar in size to the original Casa Node, and this comes with your gold membership. I believe they've upped the gold membership with the Casa 2, Casa Node 2 to $399. But if you are an existing Casa member, you'll be able to maintain your $300 price for the lifetime of the membership. And so for you freaks that don't know what Casa is, it's one of the most secure ways to hold your Bitcoin. They have multi-sig setups, different tiers. They're a very OPSEC conscious team. They have the node like I just described, and then they're going to work with you on your OPSEC. So if you have any questions for them, make sure you email membership@team.casa. Hit them with your hardest OPSEC questions, and then if you want to check out the other multi-sig offerings they have, go to keys.casa today and use the code TFTC. When you use the code TFTC at Casa, you're going to get up to $250 off one of their membership tiers. So go check it out. They just dropped a new hot node today. We'll definitely be talking about that more on Rabbit Hole Recap on Thursday. Shout out to Casa and Cash App. I hope you guys enjoy this episode with Aleks Svetski. I know we always have a great time sitting down with Aleks, and I think we had a great conversation. So enjoy. Okay.
From the Crypt.
What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. It's your boy Marty Bent here with a belly full of coffee on a Monday afternoon.
Don't forget Shake Shack.
Don't forget Shake Shack. That's true. Belly full of Shake Shack as well. You heard our guest, Matt Odell's with us as well, but we're sitting down again with Aleks Svetski for their second time in like 3 or 4 months now.
Yeah, I know, right? Shit. I can't get enough of you guys.
We saw each other in San Francisco, and now Aleks is rolling through town. He asked if we could help him break his Shake Shack cherry, so we did that.
It's his first time in New York.
First time in New York, too.
First time in New York, first time Shake Shack, what else is a first? I don't know. First time in Times Square.
I warned you not to go.
What are your thoughts on Times Square?
I got to see the Empire Boys. I felt really cool just watching them like do burnouts in the middle of the street and shit.
I've never heard of the Empire Boys.
I've never heard of the Empire Boys, too.
Yeah, me neither.
They sound like a crew we should be worried about, though.
Yeah.
Sounds like shitcorners.
Basically.
Did they start singing doo-wop at any point? It sounds like a 50s doo-wop crew.
I must admit, a couple of the cars like were really fucking pretty hot. There was like a mad SRT Dodge Challenger, and he just like fucking tore up the street. It's kind of cool, but anyway.
Probably a cop. All the undercover cops are in Dodge Challengers. Be wary of the challengers on the jersey.
Is it the challengers or the
Chargers.
Chargers?
Chargers.
Yeah, they're the
Chargers.
Chargers. Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
it is.
The
I'm
Challenger is
sorry.
such a sexy car. Fuck, I love that thing.
Yeah, dude. Monday afternoon rip here. We've
Is
been
it Monday?
It's
Yeah, it is
Monday,
Monday,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
it's
traveling will do that to you.
Yeah,
It
dude.
just throws time all for a loop.
I've been in 6 time zones in the last 2 weeks. I don't know where the fuck I am.
Yeah, because you were just at Crypto Springs, right? How was that?
I was in Crypto Springs. Crypto Springs was very Palm Springy. I don't know. I think Palm Springs is an interesting place. It feels like the kind of place you go to like die. It's like really.
Go to die? Like it's
I don't know. It feels really depressing, man. I was there. It was just-
Retirement community, right?
Yeah, basically, it was like I made the mistake of like booking an Airbnb for an extra night or two. Actually, I ended up booking an extra 2 nights because I just didn't know like what was going to happen after Crypto Springs. Because in Riga, everyone fucking hung out for a while. And,
Yeah, in
we had
Riga,
the-
you don't want to leave right
yeah,
away.
exactly. Riga was fucking
Yeah.
awesome. And then like I hung out in Palm Springs for the extra 2 nights, and I was like, why did I do this? Like, but I mean, other than that, the conference was okay. Like, it wasn't as good as Riga. I think Riga was a hell of a lot more fun. But it was cool.
yeah.
There was a good crew of Bitcoiners there.
How's how things been going on Amber? I guess that's why you're on the road, right?
That is why I'm on the road.
Chilling
yeah.
Amber. You got
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Amber.app shirt on right now.
Indeed, my Bitcoin not shitcoin shirt. Actually, have you guys seen this one? I'm gonna get you boys one. But I was actually
It says Bitcoin, not shitcoin on the back of his shirt.
indeed, yeah.
For our listeners.
Yep. I just flashed the boys my ass so they could see. I was at a cafe last night, and I went and had some dinner, and it was at like this health bar thing, whatever it's called, like Be Human or whatever it is. Anyway, one of the guys comes up to me, is like, "Oh, cool shirt, man!" Like, and he was just some noob guy, and he's like, "Oh, I've heard about this Bitcoin thing," and he's like, "What's Amber?" And I started explaining to him what it does and everything. He's like, "Oh, can I download it?" And I was like, "Unfortunately, you can't." And as we were talking, I got him to buy some fucking Bitcoin. On Cash App. Literally.
Cash App's so easy for
Dude, it was great.
onboarding.
And I was like, "Do you have Cash App?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got Cash App."
Very high touch there. High touch rate. One touch, one conversion. That's
Dude,
pretty good.
it was fucking closed him on the spot. And then I told him, I said, every day, I said it was a Sunday, but I said every Wednesday, just come on here and buy $20. And I said, in 5 years' time, you'll fucking remember.
There you go, stacking
What
sats.
what was the demo of this guy? Was he a younger guy?
He was a younger
older
dude,
guy?
yeah. He was just like working as a server in behind the thing, and he just came up to me. He was like, "Oh, cool shirt, man." So it was the Bitcoin not shitcoin shirt that got his attention, and then closed the deal, bought him some Bitcoin on Cash App. Fucking
It's pretty funny.
Jack
that
Dorsey owes me a fucking
you
commission.
couldn't even show your own product properly.
I know, it
because
was-
you were in
man.
Australia.
I know, but you know what? I did it for the cause, right?
Fact. Any Bitcoin buy pressure is good buy pressure.
Indeed.
So anytime you're convincing somebody to DCA at $30 a week is perfect.
Hell yeah.
That's the best way to learn too. If you are like a cashier or a server at a restaurant, investing can be.
No, it was really cool. No, and I
investing.
grabbed his phone. I opened up like some Bitcoin articles. I actually sent him to you guys. I was like, listen to this podcast, read this article, blah,
Thank
blah,
you.
blah. You're welcome. And yeah, it felt really good. I walked out of there. I was like, one more.
That'd be funny if he's listening to this episode right now.
I know, right?
What's up, Brandon,
You're
dude?
Tweeted
Welcome.
us.
Man, I forgot his name now. Fuck.
No need to dox him. He knows who he is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he knows who he is. If you're listening, we know you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude. So what's been going on in Amber? What's
So, yeah.
changed since we last talked in San Francisco?
Whoa! So since we last talked, we've enabled much smoother Bitcoin withdrawals. Thank you, Matt.
Beautiful.
Yep, Matt's going to be our advisor soon.
That's,
I
Kidding.
kept poking him about the withdrawals.
so that was the thing, right? Like,
Well, we were doing withdrawals manually, so people would have to request it in the support thing, and then they'd need to give us a Bitcoin address, and then we would do it. So now you can just whitelist a Bitcoin address in there, and you can process a withdrawal. We do it through like a separate pooled fund, so that way we're able to keep everything still in 100% cold storage, and then we just manage our own separate float that's in a multi-sig, and then we release the funds from there.
how was building that part of the product?
It wasn't too bad. It was a bit clunky in the beginning, and then we because I just it's really hard getting a good multi-sig, product that you can use, especially when you're mobile and stuff like that. And anyway, we figured it out, and it works.
Yeah. Customers happy.
Customers way happier, withdrawals were happening way faster. But do you know what it is? It's just one of those things where the loudest customers are generally it's the downside of the intolerant minority, right? So like 99% of our customers just leave the Bitcoin on there because they're noobs. It's the first time they've done it. They don't have their own wallets. They don't do any of that sort of stuff. And that's fine when they're at the early stage. And then, we try and sort of nurture them and teach them and all this sort of stuff. And I hope at some point they will just move that Bitcoin, into a Wasabi or something and then push it into their own ledger or cold card or whatever. But the majority of customers just leave it on there, It's a small subset of customers who want to withdraw, and they're always the loudest ones. And we did a withdrawal for a guy the other day, and we're always withdrawing on like the lowest sats per byte. And it must have just been maybe like a little peak moment of thing. And it took about a day or two for his transaction to go through, and straight away on the support thing, you fucking scammers, you've stolen my money. And it was over about like $80 or something. And I was like,
The
Jesus
biggest
Christ.
exit scam.
I know, right? He was like, you guys should be reported to the Australian authorities. Like,
Well,
you've stolen my money. I
Well,
was like,
something you got to take into consideration as like a company is the UX of like the actual blockchain. Like today, we were just talking about earlier, the block that took 2 hours to mine.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah, but Bitcoiners are scarred, right? We've had so many bad experiences
Yeah.
that, not your keys, not your coins, right? If I was using Amber, I would have been heckling you all the fucking time until the withdrawals got back. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like,
Which I actually did, and I wasn't even using
Indeed,
Amber,
indeed.
so.
That means you're a true Bitcoiner. But look, what we're going to do down the track is allow people to like set up even like an auto withdrawal.
I like that idea.
Because like again, like I'm gonna state a pompism here. It's all about automation.
There you go. I think
But,
it's better for you, right?
It is, because then we can, because my whole game here with Amber is to build like a really lean team, lean product, automate as many of the functions as possible so people can sort of automate their, so initially automate their path into Bitcoin, and then as they enter their path into Bitcoin, automate their ability to become self-sovereign. So it's sort of, they get in the system and,
yeah, how do you prioritize that feature set? Like,
well, it's right now. So the next big feature release is going to be an update to our order execution engine. So the ability to place orders instantly. So at the moment we batch orders once a day, and it pisses some people off because when you want to do a one-off order, like it doesn't go through till about 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, whatever it is.
So all the purchases go through in a batch.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's just the way we've built the product because we built it for recurring first,
Right.
and then one-off top-ups were just like a secondary feature. And obviously people just want to just buy the dip, right? Because everyone thinks they know when the dip is. Like I tell everyone, I'm like, it doesn't actually fucking matter because you don't have a crystal ball. So whether you buy the shit at 2 o'clock on the day or at 10 a.m., like when you think the dip is on, you actually don't fucking know. So half the time, 1 o'clock will have actually been a better time to buy.
yeah,
And
that delay can work out in your favor.
Correct.
As well
and
as it can work
the amount of
against you.
times it has, it's not even funny. Like the amount of times we've gone to run our batch, and the batch is run like literally at a fucking like one of those wick down candles, and then all of a sudden people are cheering because I'm stacking sats, and then sometimes it's done it and the wick's been the opposite way, and they're like, you bought it the wrong time. It's like fucking just shut up and just stack. That's it. Like it's.
So you're trying to fix that small.
Correct. So that'll
Pain
make
point.
that'll make the ability for people to buy instantly, sell instantly should they want to. We still don't prioritize the sell feature. So the app is really heavily built around just buying and stacking and withdrawing some Bitcoin. Selling on Amber is actually pretty hard. So
Good.
Yeah.
Way to keep that sell pressure
Yeah.
behind the scenes.
You just let them in the door and then you close it behind.
yeah, exactly. Basically, so it's like, by the way,
But
can't get
you
out.
do have a sell feature, or you have to like.
it's really fucking manual.
Oh.
It's really manual.
How is Bitcoin in Australia doing right now? Is it becoming more popular?
Look,
Because it's been the interesting thing in the news this week in particular. Is and I've written about it twice now, 2 days in a row, Friday and today, is the rogue nations turning to Bitcoin, like we just found out.
Well, it's funny. The rogue nations are turning to Bitcoin, whilst the developed nations are turning to. I saw a tweet today, something about now they're passing a law that any police officer can apparently just ask you for any password, not just at the
We're in
fucking airport.
Australia?
Yeah, apparently just on the street, they'll walk up to you and ask you for your password, and if you don't, it's a $50,000 fine.
In Australia?
Apparently something like that's fucking getting passed. I just saw the tweet this morning. I sent it to a friend of mine who works in government. I'm like, is this fucking shit true? Because I swear to God, I'm going to pack my bags and get the fuck out of there.
Well, I know
it's. I don't know about the password here, but like here we have civil asset forfeiture, where like a cop can just walk up to you and take your cash without any
No warrant, no
nothing, no, just the suspicion that you're doing something bad with it.
they can't get the password though. The password's protected.
Yeah,
under
in the
self-incrimination.
Apple case when the CIA was trying to get Apple to brute force, I think it was one of like
I think it was
mass
the
shooters.
FBI, yeah.
They
mass
can't
shooter's cell
legally get the
phone.
password.
That's protected under one of your amendments, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But
First Amendment.
I know in Britain, if
Fourth
you're
Amendment.
crossing the border and you're going to England, you have to, if they ask you to decrypt a drive and you don't decrypt it for them, like you don't give them the password, then that's a crime. Because they got Glenn Greenwald, his partner, was traveling with a bunch of drives. I remember they held him for like 10 hours, 12 hours.
something like
or something.
16 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he never gave it up though. They just made
And
him
then they
not-
charged him
just
with a
didn't let him
crime,
enter
right?
I think they just let him not enter the
Oh.
country. They turned him around.
I think it's a crime, though. You have to basically give them the password.
Yeah, well,
otherwise
the
it's a
UK is
crime.
becoming more and more
Dude,
Orwellian,
well-
which is pretty ironic.
Man, it is, and they're almost proud of it. I was there the other week, and they've got these posters in the tube in their subway, right? And it's got like, it's a poster with a train, and then there's these eyes in the sky, and it's like, we're watching you for your safety, and I'm like, fucking hell, like that's like literally
People like-
V for Vendetta.
Well,
Well,
they
that
think that's
exists here,
good
too.
marketing.
It exists here on the subway. Like, if you see something, say something.
Yeah,
They've
But that's not as blatant. Like I get that one. If you see something, say something. Yeah, I was talking to Matt about it yesterday. I was like, if you see something, say something, and there's like a picture of a cop with a fucking AK-47 or something, or some assault
Right?
rifle.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, like in the like. This it feels a little more police statey here, whereas in the UK it feels more surveillance statey. Like it's they're both fucked up, but
oppression via the obscurity of the digital world in London.
yeah.
Well, that's an important topic that you want to touch on today too, is the separation of money and state. It's important. We're finding that I don't want to say the partnership of the state and big tech is leading to these surveillance-like states.
Correct. Well, this was the original argument of the cypherpunks, and I
Right.
can't remember if I can't remember who I was talking to about this. Could have been on Palm's podcast, but Bitcoin wasn't something that just popped up in 2008, right? It's been the dream for the last 30 years since the Cypherpunk Manifesto, which is the world's digitizing. We're becoming, everything's becoming electronic, and the right to privacy, the right to free speech, the right to all of that is like, the sanctity of that is linked to the sanctity of our liberty and our freedoms. And if we don't find a way to maintain that privacy, we effectively give away our freedoms and our liberties in the digital world. And so obviously the first step for them was to come up with strong encryption to enable private communication. And we sort of got that. And then the holy grail was always private, uncensorable money and the ability to transact electronically without being censored. And like they predicted it so well, because that's exactly the convergence that's happening now. Like it's literally the convergence. And I was talking with Adam Meister a few months ago, and sort of saying that like the way the world's probably trending is like to 4 big factions, which will be Fedcoin faction, run by NSA or the US, and the China coin faction. Then you'll have probably Libra, corporate coin, and then there'll be like pockets of Citadels that are
They got their own shit coins.
No, it'll be all Bitcoiners, because all of those guys will be gone, man. Those guys will go back to Libra, because they'll be like, fuck this shit coin,
Do you
it's
think
worth nothing.
Libra's not going to launch, though? You just mean in general, like a corporate coin, right?
Yeah, I think corporate coin. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So whether it's Libra or whether it's something else, I think if those guys have done anything with the announcement of Libra, is that it's that they've actually, and this comes back to separation of money and state. They've, you know, I know one of the longest standing arguments against Bitcoin from no coiners has always been, oh, but how can a non-government entity issue a money? But then when Libra came out, they were like, oh, well, yeah, like it almost pierced that veil for them.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, that's something that we've talked a lot about. Is like it was pretty crazy to me, at least, how vehemently politicians and corporate media, in particular, sort of lashed out of Facebook after Libra, and they've been discounting Bitcoin to a point, which was very interesting. Just like an interesting tell from that class, but like going back to like that 4 pillar or those 4 categories, like I think you're right to some extent, at least, because the IMF came out with a blog a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I believe, where they basically capitulated and said like there will have to be central bank issued digital currencies, stable coins, if you will. We should be the ones controlling this, not Facebook.
Yep.
And so then your throwaway trope that Bitcoin can't work, so we have to do it.
Yep.
But they're thinking about it, and they're starting to posture. It's crazy that they're capitulating on it so quickly, but we will see these verticals sort of build themselves out. But I don't know. The Citadel world, as it's like a huge joke, and everybody likes to joke about it. I don't want a Citadel.
It's not a joke. It's a lifestyle, bro.
I don't want to live that lifestyle.
We're gonna have no choice. That's gonna be the life. You're gonna see. We're
I
gonna be
don't know.
taking
I
airships
kinda owe with
between
Matt,
our
yeah.
Citadels.
But again,
you
economic
see
reality comes into play. Like, what are the alternatives, right? Like,
Well, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. We've never really been able to have a society that's fundamentally free. Me and Matt were talking about this before the call. We were just saying, you know, the Constitution of the United States was like a profound document that, you know, with the amendments and everything, that, you know, helped set the basis for a free society. And it's why, you know, traditionally America was, you know, the greatest, you know, nation in the world. I don't know what is now, but anyway. The problem we've had, so again, that's just managed to concentrate itself just through politics and through the fact that money and state are both linked, right? What we've never had is the ability to build a society around a money that is fundamentally free and owned by the constituents of the society. And that's what Bitcoin gives us. So for the first time in history, we actually have an opportunity to build our own, you know, society, collective, group, citadel, whatever the fuck we're going to call it, and have an economic system
Citadel.
Let's call it Citadel. that has an economic system via which it functions so that it can actually sustain itself. Because, and it cannot be sanctioned, it cannot be turned off, it cannot be censored. So all of those things actually exist. So we could fundamentally be self-sufficient on a Bitcoin system, but I just don't think it's going to... I don't think it's going to happen cleanly, because I mean Bitcoin's barely, I mean it's $8,000 now. You know, it's barely $10,000. It's barely even scratched the surface as a
12,000 sats per dollar.
12,000 sats per dollar. It's barely scratched the surface, and we're already seeing, you know, countries like, you know, saying like what you just said about the IMF. We're seeing, you know, Australia, like, you know, pass more draconian measures. Every single government is passing more and more draconian measures because they can feel the control slipping, and their reaction is to grip tighter.
Well, that's from like the top of the world economy, right? The top world economies are trying to grip tighter, but then again, you have like Venezuela buying goods from Russia and China using Bitcoin, Belarus, their dictator / president coming out, and I don't know how serious he was, like that clip.
It seemed like it was kind of a joke.
He
right?
looked like he was joking. Yeah.
It looked like it was a joke, but even so, like the notion of experimenting with Bitcoin mining is like, it's a joke now. Like, he's laughing now, but maybe he just threw it out there. Like, what do you guys think about this?
Yeah,
Like,
I think they actually are. They are experimenting with it, but he was also making fun of the fact that they were.
Yeah.
Like some company or whatever is mining Bitcoin with the nuclear power.
Yeah. Well, the president of Belarus is talking about Bitcoin.
Right. Exactly.
And Ukraine, again, this is not anything necessarily bullish from them, because they just want to tax it, but they're making it legal, it seems. So Portugal's made it. So like all these
Germany,
upstart economies, Germany.
Germany also has a very beneficial tax structure.
Oh yeah. If you hodl for more than like a year, then you're
Yeah, then
pretty
there's
good.
no capital gains. That's huge.
Yeah.
I
No
think
capital gains at all?
for over a year, I'm pretty sure.
Or is it just discounted capital gains?
I think it's none.
The point I'm trying to make though is
Get outta
like.
Someone was
Like
saying
as
this
some
to
of the
Riga.
some of the top countries and economies like try to tighten the grip, like maybe, and so that's the other thing. Like makes me think Citadels may not be the the thing of the future. Because what if just like all these upstart economies take advantage of it and like help it get to a place where
Well, that'd be like the Belarus Citadel.
Yeah, correct. I was about to say they're just the biggest Citadel.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean,
well, what if it's
these
what if it gets to
Citadel-
a point where economic activity is so large that it would be, again, the game theory comes in that if you don't participate in the network, you're doing your citizens.
I think if you expect smaller government, like the result will be like many smaller
Yes.
governments,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So each smaller government is
Is a
essentially a citadel
Yeah.
because they
Yes.
need to defend themselves
Yep.
from everyone else.
Yep.
I agree.
And the
Hence
way
Citadel.
I agree
exactly.
with the breaking up of nation states
Yeah.
and smaller nations.
And they're going to turn into citadels.
Correct. Well, so if we're going to use that definition of citadel, that's exactly where I think it's going. So you're going to have this homogenous blob called China. You're going to have this homogenous blob, which is sort of like the IMF or Fed coin, something like that. And you'll have these nation states or citadels hanging around that are all operating on Bitcoin. And guess what? They'll be able to trade with each other outside of influence of the
then
other two.
Who the hell is using the corporate coin?
That's, I mean, all the sheep, basically. So
But aren't they using Fed coin and China coin?
Potentially, but maybe corporate coin is going to just offer some other services that Fed coin and China coin don't offer.
I don't know. I think the corporate coin future highly discounts public opinion about corporations and their ability to safeguard this data and these systems. Like Kanye's coming out with his new album. Apparently, he calls LA. He says that LA is run by Satan, and he's like trying to convince everybody to delete Facebook and Instagram in his new album. I don't know how many people
Does
follow
he
up
mention
on that.
Bitcoin at all?
I don't know. But I don't know. Like, so for the corporate coins, for their long-term viability, like I think you have to factor in some sort of public opinion deterioration over the medium to long term, I believe.
It'd be like it'd be the only way to shop at the company's store, right? It's like the same thing as like old time companies Crypt, where like they would pay their employees and the employees would have to
It
shop
won't
at the
be only
company's
that.
store.
It'll be fucking. It's very easy for a. I think it's much easier for a company like Facebook to out innovate and outmaneuver a Fed coin or a China coin.
That's a good point.
Because they'll be able to give like, okay, shop at this store, get 2% cash back, like all of that sort of stuff.
like
People
Amazon maybe.
exactly, yeah. So it'll either
Facebook, I don't know. It seems like
Amazon has an advantage through the shopping, but also Facebook has an advantage through its reach, and its captive audience. So maybe Zuck and Bezos will do a deal. I don't know, but like at the end of the day, I just feel like they've got a competitive advantage through innovation. The others, the China coin and the Fed coin, will have an advantage through complacency and through some, fucking thread of trust in the state.
and they'll
or
force
some-
it.
And the forcing, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I feel like there will be some form of backdoor deal where, whether Fed coin or something like that, is one of the basket currencies inside the corporate coin, that it's backed by or something like that, so that they've got their fingers like there will have to be a deal like that in order for corporate coin to proliferate or to be allowed to proliferate.
Well, again, let's talk about like black swan public opinions. Like we're talking about like the importance of the separation of money and state. Like that's one of the founding pillars of America, is the separation of church and state. I think for modern day republics or democracies, whatever you want to call what we have here in America, that was a big precedent that was set, and it's sort of expected that going forward, like, hey, that's a human right, the separation of church and state. And maybe again, like if we are successful in convincing others that separation of money and state is just as advantageous, maybe you have people starting to question like, oh, why does the central bank own this? And it should be separated. Why does Facebook run this? It should be separated. It should be apolitical.
Dude, so the separation of church and state allowed science to proliferate, right? And that changed the world completely. So the way when I look at the separation of money and state, and the reason why I think it'll be such a profound change as well, it's not because we're gonna just allow some new things to proliferate, but what separation of of money and state does is it resets the baseline incentives of a society. So the incentives in a society where money and state are linked and they're one is, I guess, if we first start off as the definition, if we start off as defining money as the ultimate resource in society, it's the resource through which we measure goods, production, value, work, effort, time. Like we measure everything in this unit called money. That unit is supposed to map directly to those things. You shouldn't be able to just produce more of the fucking unit just because you feel like it, right? Or adjust it, or dictate who fucking gets it in your little circle of cronies. So what happens in a model or a system that is where money and state are one or linked as they are now, is the incentive moves away from producing, adding value, creating, and all of that. The incentive moves to how do you gain hold of this resource through rent seeking, through building regulation, through having friends in high places. Like it's all of the fucking wrong incentives.
Mm-hmm.
So when you separate those two, and this is sort of what I say to people, why I think a Bitcoin world is so much more powerful. It's that the only way in a Bitcoin denominated world for you to earn or acquire more of the most important resource, which is money, is to produce more, to add more value, to do more work. That is fucking it. Or to steal. But if you've got strong property rights in that environment, when you steal, you might get away with it once, twice, and then you get fucking shot or something. So it's like...
That turned.
Eh?
I said that turned real quick.
So the incentive then moves towards production, which is literally...
Produce something valuable for the world.
That's it. And produce first, consume later. It's so for me, that like Bitcoin's most profound innovation is this idea that it, we've, for the first time in history, we've managed to take fixed things, which is like time and energy, which, through time and energy we derive work and all of that sort of stuff. We're now able to map money also as a fixed constant back to those.
Without trust.
Without fucking trust.
Provably
exactly.
fair work.
Correct. Without someone being able to tamper with that shit, because there is no money and state as one, then we can build functional states because money is its own sovereign thing.
Right. No, I mean,
We shall call them Citadels.
Preaching to the choir here. And actually, while you're saying that, like, I was actually wondering, do you think, like, the U.S. government and academics and modern-day economists would try to argue that money and state is already separated because the Federal Reserve is supposed to be a private entity that is not associated with the government?
That's what I was going to say. That's a good...
Right?
That's a good...
like, would they argue that already? Like,
Yeah, they would. And that's why I changed my thing before I said they were linked. Because, I mean... fundamentally, they are.
But it's not actually
they are.
separate.
They are. I know. It's just
right.
I mean, you have Trump tweeting at Powell to
lower
interest rates or shit
it
like
maybe
that.
was separate in the beginning, right? And it just
It had the
slowly-
guise of
But
exactly.
it was still like an inside group, well-connected inside group.
Treasury issuance is a big part
Exactly.
of money creation today. So
Correct.
they're part
And
of
that's
that loop.
Correct. No matter how many constitutions or amendments or shit we sort of end up building, the thing is, it'll always concentrate back to a few cronies or a few people. Like, and that's why Bitcoin is just so profound, because Bitcoin is just owned by everyone at every layer of the stack, and it's just so much harder to concentrate Bitcoin. Like, I mean, we can't fucking agree on anything, so like it's.
It's hard to change by design.
Exactly, and that
It's hard to corrupt it.
Exactly, that ossification is so important, and this is where I think all the meth heads and everyone else sort of get it wrong. Am I allowed to say meth heads? Maybe I'll
You
call
can say
them
meth heads.
It might be the first
Ethereans
time
is the
it's been said on this podcast.
is the politically correct term.
No,
Oh,
and I guess
okay.
ETH heads right in between is like a little bit better, right?
Yeah, it's a little like, hey, I'm not going to go full
Full meth heads.
head. But we already have gone full meth head, so.
So continue.
Sorry, it's too late. I forgot what I was going to say now. What was I saying about them? That's where they get it wrong. Is they take a technologist's viewpoint of this space, and it's about moving things, changing things, upgrading things, and doing
Feel
all
like-
that. Whereas this is not about that. It's about incorruptibility.
Once you have the ability for someone to control something,
Yep.
humans will naturally corrupt it. So the best situation to protect people's rights is if just no one has control over the system.
Correct. I actually came up with a term a little while ago, and I don't know if it was me or if I'd actually heard it somewhere. I don't know, but it was called prospering of the commons, which is supposed to be the opposite to tragedy of the commons. Surprise, surprise. Which is anything that we've had throughout history that's been a commons, we've fundamentally created a tragedy out of it, and through the desire to survive, the desire to continue on and all that sort of stuff, and our own selfish biases, which people think selfishness is a bad thing. I actually think selfishness is a fucking fundamentally good thing, but unbounded selfishness is where we get ourselves into trouble.
I think you have to separate selfishness and hedonism, right?
You have to assume selfishness,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's a good thing.
Well, it's
good to be selfish.
It is
because you try to better yourself.
Exactly.
I mean,
if you don't look
greed
after
is
yourself
good,
first,
is what I say. So
Again, that's why I
guess
think it's
I do
important to
agree.
separate selfishness from hedonism.
Yeah,
where
very good
hedonism is you're selfish, but to a
Yep.
gluttonous level.
Yep.
Almost.
Yeah. No, that's a really good distinction.
Self-interest is maybe a better word, right?
Well, that's maybe the more politically correct version of selfishness.
Yes.
But it's fundamentally important. Like everything down to our genetic, to our biology is selfish. It's about self-preservation and survival and continuation. And I'm going in random tangents here, but Bitcoin takes that element of us and somehow transforms it into this prospering of the commons, where the thing that we collectively own gets stronger.
The assurances provided by the network that everybody has access to
Correct.
Are made better off by the stronger network effect that you're referencing right now.
Correct.
And it's like a self-fulfilling feedback loop that makes everybody prosper at the end of the day.
Yep. And we've never had that before. Some dude tweeted me the other day, is like, oh, that prospering of the commons thing that you mentioned, somebody's like, have you ever seen that in anything else? I don't think I have. I mean,
pretty much everything's tragedy of the commons.
Yeah,
I've actually been saying reverse tragedy of the commons.
Okay.
That's way better.
What, prospering?
Better
Prosperity.
memeage there.
Yeah.
But is it too that's using heuristics here. If it sounds too good to be true, is it too good to be true? Is it too good to be true to believe that it is a prospering and this won't turn out to be a tragedy of the commons?
Well, maybe I feel like
prospering of the internet is a prospering of the commons. Is anybody having access to information?
It's about incentives, right? So when you use the internet, we are continuing to bloat it and centralize it more, right?
Yeah.
So Bitcoin almost there was a path there where we could have had a lot of different elements that were a tragedy of the commons, right? You raise the block size indefinitely, that's a tragedy of the commons because people's nodes costs are going up.
Yep.
And everyone's incentivized to use as much fucking on-chain data as possible because it costs them nothing. So you need the incentives Bitcoin's incentives are aligned properly to make that prospering of the commons happen.
Correct, and
but
to continue as well.
They could be fucked up, but because Bitcoin's so hard to change, that's becoming more and more unlikely.
Well,
right?
It's not only because it's so hard to change, but because the mechanism works so well, because the incentive for self-preservation is first and foremost in Bitcoin. We all stood up to changing the fucking block size. Why? Because we're fucking greedy inherently. I don't want my bags to go down. I don't want my bags to be run by Roger.
I don't want my bandwidth cost to go up.
Exactly. Well, so literally, what happened with that fork was Bitcoin functioning exactly as it should. Its immune system kicked out the shit.
And tying this back to the other projects, not performance tuning for this trade-off in particular. We just saw last week, the Ethereum miners just raised the gas limit out of nowhere.
I didn't see that.
Unanimously,
Everyone's
so
node
now
costs.
everybody's node
just
can
went
hold
right
more
up.
data. So running an Ethereum node just got more expensive. Believe it or not,
Stacking Gwei, man.
just got a bit harder.
All because that Ponzi scheme DApp was using too much gas.
Fairwind.
Fees are going up. Yeah,
Fairwind.
Fairwind.
Man, it's all about that Gwei. It's all about that Gwei.
Stop trying to meme for them.
That is the worst meme, man. I can't believe that guy actually rolled that one out. I was like, really, dude? And then some Bitcoiner was like, what did he say? He gave him a better line. It was something like, there was some alliteration in it. There was a G. What's
Gaining
gaining way? I don't know.
Right,
That sounds like you're getting fat.
Can we just go back? Can I like loop us all the way back to corporate coin?
Yep.
And bring it back to corporate coin.
I don't. Why is anyone using corporate coin? It doesn't
Exactly.
make
That's
any
my whole
sense.
point. Like, why would you want to? It's a barter. It's the whole reason the token economy doesn't work out at the end of the day. Because you have Bitcoin that you go to the bodega and that you spend and you use hypothetically in the future. You don't then want to go online to buy Libra, and then shop online
It's
with
definitely
it.
not going to be Libra, so I don't like.
We're using Libra as an example,
Yeah.
but like,
I think corporate coin will function if it's got enough critical mass.
But I feel like if corporate coin does exist, it'll be because Fed coin and corporate coin are the same coin. You know, it'll be like
that,
this
or there'll be a
kind of-
backdoor deal where corporate coin is made
But
up.
then
of
why
Fed
do you
coin.
have Fed coin?
no, they compete with each other the way Libra or unless there's a corporate coin that does not do what Libra's doing, which is try to make a basket of currencies to create a stable
Well, see,
coin.
I think some of the Citadels will be controlled by major multinational corporations. Well, there won't be nations, multi-Citadel corporations, right? So those guys might have their own Fed coin.
Yeah.
And is that a corporate coin or is that a Fed coin? And I don't know. Maybe like looking at it the wrong way. Maybe we'll have like nation states that are corporations.
Well, like that's where I always fall back on. I see like a free banking system, the like that proliferated in Canada happening, like the Bitcoin banks situation that Hal realized. You will have maybe it is is it a corporate coin though, or is it
but
like
that's not a coin. So the way I envision the future of banks, so going off on this tangent now, is that banks are going to become more access points than the providers of the functionality. And what I mean there is banks have traditionally provided the function of store, send, receive. That is literally what they do. And then they build products and services around the ability to store, send, and receive money. Now, what we've done with Bitcoin is we've actually pushed the store, send, receive function down to the protocol layer. So the banks or the future financial institution will just be an access point that sits on top of that protocol, which provides value-added services and products on top of that core function of store, send, receive.
I really like that simplification of store, send, receive.
It's literally what it does. Like I wrote that in the Bitcoin Times, so I think the Bitcoin banks or the banks of the future will exist, and the barrier to open a bank is going to completely disappear. So right now, in order to open a bank, I was hanging out with a friend in Latvia the other week that I told you about, and turns out her dad was when the USSR came down, he opened one of the first banks in Latvia, and in order to do that, he had to do a big deal with the Central Bank of Latvia and all this sort of like all this sort of stuff, right? To be able to run a financial institution. In the future, like we have, and I coined this yesterday, the central bank of the internet, which is Bitcoin. And guess what? For you to do a deal with the central bank of the internet, you just need an internet connection. And you can literally set up your own bank with your own products and services. So Amber is a fucking bank. Zap is a bank. Like all of these apps that are coming out, we're all functionally banks, but the future definition of what a bank is, which is an access point that provides people a way to engage, use, and work with this protocol that offers
The final settlement layer.
Correct, and which offers the three features: send, store, receive.
The future Overton window, the Bitcoin blockchain. It closes every 10 minutes.
But then wouldn't you just use Bitcoin?
Correct. This is all Bitcoin. That's
yeah,
what I'm
that's
saying.
what I'm. This is the point I've been trying to make.
Yeah. So my whole argument about
I think I've been trying to make the point too.
Okay. Let's come back to corporate coin. So my whole point about Fed coin, China coin, corporate coin, and Bitcoin is that these guys aren't gonna give up without a fight. That's the thing. So they're gonna try and build their own digital fucking US dollar coin. The corporate coins
but
are gonna.
what year are we in?
I don't know, man. I'm like,
give me a decade.
This is probably going to be over a couple decades, but
right. Like if
all
it's
end
still
up,
like 2030 or 2040 or something.
But like,
it'll all end up converging to Bitcoin anyway, because the problem is all of these other systems in vain are going to try and compete with Bitcoin, whilst people are looking in to these citadels and saying, hey, all the smart people are over there, let's fucking go there. There'll be a brain suck out of these other systems. Now, corporate coin will try and compete with Fed coin.
They might be the same coin.
They could be, but the reason I don't think they'll be exactly the same coin is corporate coin will try and optimize for innovations that Fed coin won't be willing to do.
But if
And-
you like the paper that the IMF wrote or the blog post, whatever, I think it was a blog post that I alluded to earlier, like that's how the IMF was pitching central bank coin was, hey, who are tech startups to create these baskets of stabilized assets? Like we should be doing that. Like that's our expertise.
I mean, of course they're going to say that because now Libra's encroaching on their turf, right? They're
but
going
yeah,
to be
the
like,
product
fuck
is
you.
essentially the same. I mean,
it's-
I would argue that they're both equally incompetent and like not able to
I would say
perform the task at hand.
I would say the team at Facebook and like all of those tech companies is far more technically proficient and competent than a bunch of bureaucrats.
They're
Yeah,
more
but the-
design competent.
But the bureaucrats can just tell them they can't do it.
Well, they
Which is
will.
what's
but-
happening right now.
Correct, but what they'll do is they'll do a backdoor deal and they'll say, look, we'll use your thing. We'll bring liquidity to you because we've got, between us, 3 billion users across the planet. We'll be able to activate
and
this.
it'll be the same coin. That's my point.
Okay, fine.
It'll be like
What is it? Yeah.
USD coin powered by Facebook and this consortium of 40 tech companies or something.
Possibly. I feel like it'll still be a little bit more of a middle ground because these, basically the bargaining chip that corporate coin has on US and Fed coin is that, hey, we got access to way more jurisdiction than you do. So, we're not going to completely be, yours. Maybe we'll hold 20, 30%, 40% or whatever. So I think that there's a few more bargaining chips there on both sides. So I just feel like that there won't be, it won't be all US and it won't be all corporate coin. I think they've each got their
Yeah, there will be that awkward period where they try to make it happen and force it on people. But
yeah.
Again, like I said, I think discounting future disillusionment of these what's the word I'm looking for? Not
Corporates.
structures, corporates, but of these entities, whether it be a government or corporation. It could be a black swan, especially if we turn into like another financial crisis, like for the second time in 11 years, 12 years. Public sentiment. If we have like an Occupy Wall Street, like.
I don't know if it's going to be an Occupy Wall Street this time. I feel like
No, well, we have Bitcoin's the more actionable Occupy Wall Street, but if you have
Yeah.
sentiment return
yeah,
like
yeah.
that, I don't know. I think I could be I could be naive. Like maybe the same shit just keeps happening. People don't care.
I feel like, maybe I'm just more tainted, but I don't know. I feel like we just keep doing the same shit over and over again. But I might just say one thing for the record here. Whilst I am advocating for the likelihood of corporate coin, I'm not for corporate coin. Before I get trolled on fucking Twitter, my whole interpretation of this is that this is going to be the futile attempt of all of these guys along the
Yes.
journey of hyper-Bitcoinization for this to happen. Because the first things that are going to fall over are going to be the weak government currencies that are already shit. People are going to run the fuck out of those for a stabler, more trusted, larger, more liquid government-backed coin or corporate coin.
Well,
I mean-
and we're seeing that they may even be forced into Bitcoin, like it was the case with Venezuela. They literally have no other option. They cannot use SWIFT. They cannot use the banking. So they're being forced, one of the weakest currencies in the world, forced into Bitcoin at the government level.
I mean, if we follow like the Citadel logic, then there
The
could
Winklevi
be.
need to be killed.
I think it'd be less likely that there'd be like a single corporate coin than there'd be like many shit coins. Of the like, I could see like certain Citadels, like they only pay all their citizens / like workers in shitcoin.
In
That's like
tungsten,
free
the
floated to
tungsten of
Bitcoin.
the digital world.
You know?
Yeah, potentially, but I feel like those smaller ones that are running off their own shitcoin will just fall over in the same way as a Zimbabwe would fall over because there'll be weak citadels, weak states with
Yeah.
weak money. So they won't be able to subsist. The only guys who will be able to subsist are the ones that are large enough to have some form of critical mass to keep the thing fucking rolling long enough before it decays from within. So that's why the reason I think Libra has an edge, or that consortium has an edge, is because they've got access to 2.5 billion people.
I just see
That's-
like I think
it's the volume that counts here.
we see like states and corporations getting closer and closer together. Like our government is like completely bought out right now by like corporations, because they've made buying them completely legal. And I see that merger happening more and more. And I think if we go to smaller states, kind of what's going to happen is we're going to have like corporate nation state hybrids, right? Like, isn't that? Do you
I
guys
don't
think
know.
that would be likely?
I like to romantically believe in the return to more localized things, like local butcher shops, and like that's like in more local goods being delivered to you. Obviously, you're connected to get raw goods from the outside world. You can get them shipped in, but you have people within your quote unquote citadel. That's what it turns into.
Technology is allowing for
No
that,
quotes
right?
needed.
And like, do you have large corporations in these small nation states? Like,
No, like couldn't you see Google controlling, like a large portion of an area, and it's like the Google, the state of Google,
Google Dell.
and then like everyone who lives there like works for Google and is
I mean, that's
schooled
basically
by Google.
that's what Google basically is already.
I know,
their
but I'm saying
headquarters.
in that Citadel world, you could see that like different major corporations carving out certain areas.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, like maybe Google's already trying to do that. I mean, Apple as well with their like spaceship headquarters as well.
But
But
it takes off.
but yeah, but then that begs the
That's
question.
backup
though,
plan.
That
We'll
begs the
go to
question. Though,
Mars.
is like,
Fuck
is
these
that
guys.
is that too much of a monoculture for a Citadel? Right? You have one corporation running it. Like, are the options on the market going to be such where it's like, why would I go to the Citadel made by Google under their
You get
control?
education, nice housing,
Yeah.
good food.
You live in
You
the
get paid in Google shitcoin.
Yeah, interesting.
Kind of makes sense.
Maybe. So like,
You
what if
need.
what if the options to like not live in a corporate Citadel are so good that it's like it just becomes unpalatable to live in one?
Well, but see, that's why, because Bitcoin exists, that option will now exist, right? Because so like prior to Bitcoin, if let's say Google decided to just roll out this little Citadel of their own, the US government will come down and just stamp it out, right? None of these guys can come and stamp out a Bitcoin denominated thing. Now, I think what you're talking just then about having the Googleplex with their own shitcoin and everything like that.
The nation of Google.
Yeah, the nation of Google Nation,
Yeah.
Pump Nation.
There's some scary motherfuckers over there in Google Nation.
I actually think that the benefit in these corporate coins actually lies in the ability to economically link up places that are far and wide, that are dispersed, because it fundamentally gives you reach. Like, one of the big difficulties right now for people living in jurisdictions that are far and wide. Like, I mean, South America is like I think if I was the Libra guys, the first place I'd be going is fucking South America, because you've got a huge concentration of users across all your platforms on there. And you can literally, like, you've got currencies across every single nation in South America falling apart.
Pretty tech savvy populations.
Yep.
WhatsApp's
Yep.
huge,
Yeah, especially
in Latin
WhatsApp.
America.
WhatsApp is the big
Correct.
one.
So that would be a way for them to.
But what they should have done, really, I mean, I hope no one from their team is listening to this podcast,
Yeah, true.
so they don't
We're
do
giving
it.
them all the ideas.
But I think they should have just said it's going to be a U.S. dollar stablecoin. We're just going to, however many we have of them, it's going to be worth $1. We have them in the
but they
bank.
want to be
And then-
bigger than the US.
No. But the thing is, you could then pivot later. You could just be like, oh, now we've added
Just pull the
euros.
Binance.
Now we've added this to the basket. Now we've added that. And at that point, you're already moving. You already have users and stuff. The U.S. government's way less likely to stop you than when you're like 9 months out from launch.
Yeah, I
And you're
agree.
like, we're
Yeah.
going to be a central bank.
Yeah, possibly. So maybe their strategy all along was, start the negotiation up here, agree here, and then draw them back up.
No, I don't think. I think they just.
First impressions.
I think Zuck just got like.
First impression was, hey, we're coming to take your lunch. That's why, like, again, it was so crazy to see how viscerally and quickly the U.S. government, like Maxine Waters, called like an emergency House meeting about it, didn't she?
Yeah, and they actually all showed up, which is rare.
Right.
Someone's gonna take our lunch. Fucking okay, I'm getting.
I
out of
think
bed for this
Zuck
one.
just, Zuck has extraordinary control over that company still, and I think he just like got it in his head that he wanted to do this, and he wanted to do it big because he does everything big, and he just went for it.
Senate, that creeper. That dude's just so creepy.
Who?
Zuck.
Zuck.
Like just the way he speaks.
Yeah, I mean, he's not
We're
made for a
smoking
camera.
meats. We're smoking meats. We got our smoked meats. That's one of my favorite videos on the internet.
It's so weird.
It's so weird.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No.
Yeah, one time I think Zuck like live streamed an 8-hour barbecue where he smoked some meats, and he said, "We're smoking meats." I think like 2,000 times throughout the day.
It was so awkward.
Jesus Christ.
Zuck, if you're listening, you should have thought of LibreCoin in a better way. You should have launched as a stable coin.
No, I really hope they're not listening. I think it's just going to crash and burn, and then they'll just back off.
Yeah, we'll see.
They already have a payment rail. It's a fully regulated traditional payment rail.
And it's boring.
right?
It's boring.
Yeah, but
like,
this is also going to be fully regulated anyway, right? So you just put a USD wallet in every WhatsApp customer's
Facebook.
thing, dude.
How about
Yeah,
this,
I know,
Facebook?
I
How about
know.
this, Facebook? Shock the world. Make WhatsApp Zap compatible, and just let people have self-sovereign, non-custodial wallets within the app.
That was my original fear when the Facebook news first came out, like a year and a half ago. Was like, if I was working at Facebook, that's what I would do. Just put a full Bitcoin wallet in every WhatsApp user's app.
Mm-hmm.
But the scary part of that is they would quickly become the number one Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah,
Everyone would be using their fucking nodes.
And then we're screwed.
And they would be able to chain analysis all of us because they have like intimate knowledge about every single person on the
But like,
platform.
let's just imagine a world in which we design this Bitcoin compatible message app product from scratch, and it works in a perfect world, right? Like you basically just allow people to create invoices and send invoices in the app, and then on the back end they just hook up their Zap wallet, which is connected to their own node, to their own wallets, and Facebook doesn't know anything except that an invoice has been created and sent. Maybe it doesn't even know how much it was created for,
So
whatever.
we're still using WhatsApp in this situation.
Still using WhatsApp, and
like a plugin.
yeah, but the payment gets paid in a self-sovereign,
Can't you just
non-custodial
copy
way.
a Bitcoin address like into WhatsApp, send it to someone, and then
Something like that.
have
yeah.
them?
Well,
But like I've been doing that forever. Like one of my favorite ways to like shill Bitcoin to people is when I first show them a transaction, I don't do the QR code. Even if they're standing next to me, I have them text me their address, because I feel like once you can grasp that you just have to send text and you can send it through any kind of medium and you can send payment based off that, that's like crazy. It's
Right.
absolutely crazy. QR code is less crazy.
yeah, but you think it's I mean, it's not impossible to implement. Like, it's possible now. They're obviously not going that way. But Facebook, again, if you're listening, I know you are, Zuck. If you want to shock the world, just make it Zap compatible. You know, just make it so your WhatsApp users can transact and send and receive Bitcoin in a non-custodial fashion within the app.
They'd make a ton of money off of it too, because they could just sell all that fucking chain data, just all the user information off of that. They could sell a ton of it. They'd be the number one chain analysis company.
This is
Yeah.
true.
Number one wallet, number one chain analysis company. That's some scary shit.
They could monetize the fuck out of it.
Do we want that?
No, not at all. Hopefully they're not listening.
We'll see.
We're just three idiots talking here. We
Yeah,
have
no,
no idea what we're talking about.
This is
It's
this is a very heady
we're
podcast.
all drunk, high.
I'm not drunk. It's a Monday.
The only one drinking.
It's a Monday at 3 p.m. I'm taking it easy.
Well, we had a listener send in this bottle. Do we know which listener?
Yes, this is a bottle of Three Angels, or excuse me, Angels
It's
Envy.
Angel's Envy.
Angels Envy
But it's their rye whiskey.
from Zero Knowledge Actor.
Zero Knowledge Actor.
Yeah, shout out
Thank
to
you,
him.
dude. It tastes delicious. I'm consuming it right now.
Yeah, no, this was a great, just like thought experiment
Mm.
episode. Helped me think out some thought experiments on
Yeah.
the future of, because that's actually something that has been a topic of a few of the conversations I've had over the last couple of weeks. Is what will the transition look like to hyper-Bitcoinization?
Yeah,
Like, will
dude,
there be
yeah.
stable coins? Will hyper-Bitcoinization? I mean, again, will hyper-Bitcoinization happen at all? Is that a foregone conclusion? I have no idea. But if we're assuming that it does it happen quicker than we expect, and you're sort of using it as a unit of account quicker than many right now expect, or is there this transition with these corporate and stable coins? Can you do a distributed stable coin, will those proliferate? Is Tether going to win out?
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know about speed, but I think it's going to be messier than a lot of us think. So I think, Bitcoin will probably reach an ability to be used as a, maybe as a medium of exchange, inside Bitcoin's own economic ecosystem, and that ecosystem doesn't have to be, jurisdictionally bound. Like for the first time, we can be local, i.e. be inside Bitcoin, but be on different sides of the planet and still interact and still exchange and still do things. And then this is why I just don't think the US, China, and corporate coin are gonna give up easily, and they'll sort of try and build their own infrastructure and call it digital and call it better than Bitcoin and do all this sort of stuff. But in the process, we'll just keep building mass over here, and there'll just be a brain drain to where you are most rewarded for the work, effort, and value you put into society. And the place where you're going to be most rewarded for that is the place where you cannot be, where the representation of all of your work cannot be debased, cannot be censored, cannot be confiscated, and all of that. So it'll just suck the best people. It almost reminds me of the Ayn Rand Atlas Shrugged, and like people just the smartest people going to Galt's Gulch and just getting the fuck out of Dodge, really, watching everything else sort of crumble on itself, because Bitcoin is like, that peaceful opt-out and that opportunity now that we have to really reinvent society and state without any of us having control of the money. And that right there, to tie this episode off then, about separating money and state, is in doing so, we're going to build a new version of state that is so much fucking stronger, and we're going to call it Citadel.
Fuck yes.
The Citadel. What Citadel? What are you going to name your Citadel, Matt?
I don't know, but we're definitely going to rename the podcast Tales from the Citadels.
Tales from the Citadels. That'll be a great day.
So I was thinking when he was mentioning that, there is like an intermediary period in Citadel logic where we'll have smaller Citadels while we're trying to wait out the craziness that happens. Yep. And then the whole world will move to like these smaller states that are Citadels. So it's like Citadels within Citadels.
Yep.
Do either of you guys have like a romantic holdout for the conditions of our current condition, being that we live with the internet and information can spread almost instantaneously across the world? You can get almost any information to almost half the people on the planet at any given, in some way or form, or via cell phones or direct access to the internet via web browser. Do you have hope that the information about Bitcoin being a better monetary system can spread through these avenues in a quick enough fashion, and there could be a sort of global consciousness shift in a quicker time frame than we would think, based on looking at history? So going forward, because of these technologies and their ability to get information out, do you think that changes our maybe our expectations of how it plays out in the future are sort of clouded by how it's played out so far up to this point?
I mean, we saw, I think when you have times of immense crisis, people end up moving quicker too. Mm-hmm. So not only do we have the internet spreading all this information and planting seeds, a lot of all over the world is planting seeds. But when we saw when the Greeks had their financial collapse, I remember a couple of years ago, they had whole areas just switched to the barter system. Mm-hmm. They just set up markets, and they were doing this informal trade system amongst each other, right? If 10 people in that community have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin isn't suffering the same crisis that everyone else there is suffering, it kind of turns into this self-fulfilling kind of prophecy where those people are seeding a new market in that area that's using Bitcoin as their barter element, right? A universal barter element.
Well, that was actually what was very interesting to hear from Mauricio, who was on the podcast last week. He's from Venezuela. If you guys haven't heard that episode, go listen to it if you want to learn about what's going on the ground in Venezuela. It's crazy, but he told a story. He told, not a story, but he explained how Venezuelans are writing seed phrases on pieces of paper, crossing the border into Colombia, and then immediately going to one of two Bitcoin ATMs, right across the most popular border crossing between Venezuela and Colombia. And he was saying just optically, you have 50,000 people crossing that border every day by foot, and they see like 200 people waiting in line at these ATMs, and just like naturally they're like, what the hell is going on here? And they start asking the people in line, like, what are you guys doing? They're like, yeah, dude, we just wrote 12 words on this piece of paper. We got our money. We're about to get it from this ATM. And like, that is something that's like, whoa.
Yeah, there's I came up with a model a little while ago, and this is probably a cool little meme to spread. Is people get into Bitcoin for two reasons: curiosity or pain. Like, I literally think it boils down to those two reasons. You're either curious enough to want to understand money, to understand sovereignty, to understand all of the things that make Bitcoin special, or pain is going to force you into getting involved in Bitcoin in some way, shape, or form. The question is, it's just a matter of which one is it going to be. And at some point in time, like let's say you're even a shitcoiner, you come in, through shitcoining, and the pain that's going to end up, getting you to circle into Bitcoin is understanding that your shitcoins are worth nothing, and coming around to Bitcoin. If you're a no coiner, same sort of thing. If you're a pre-coin, like all avenues will lead, to one of those reasons being, the why of you getting into Bitcoin, which is kind of what you mentioned in the beginning, and then you just nailed it then with the curiosity around people lining up at ATMs. And people are curious, like, what is it? Why? And then sort of get intellectually, stimulated by it and curious about it. Yeah. And I mean, we're lucky enough living in the first world, like the pain hasn't been that great, but I'm sure we've all had our own little bits and pieces of pain along the way that have acted as further catalysts.
I mean, this studio is a first world problem right here. Like, it's a great studio, but it is insanely, obscenely expensive. Just feeling the pressures of the ills of the monetary system. Yeah. I would argue that New York real estate prices are inflated by people using the real estate for capital flight.
Yep.
Yep. It is a worse store of value than Bitcoin. So we shall see how that plays out.
We shall see. We shall see. We shall see how a lot of things play out. So as you freaks go to observe how this all plays out, think about the separation of money and state. It's important. Is it an imperative human right that would, like we discussed, level the playing field of incentives?
Hell yeah.
And have us a prosper. What was it?
Prosperity of the commons.
Prosperity of the commons. Yeah.
I feel like, honestly, we are so lucky to be born at this time, because like you look back at the Renaissance and like that period changed history fundamentally, and like we're in a period that'll change history fundamentally as we sort of move on to the stars. Like as sort of mankind turns a new chapter, I think this is the catalyst that allows for that to happen. Because Bitcoin just impacts so many things.
It's so fucking beautiful.
I know.
Keep Bitcoining, freaks. It's fun. It's fun being able to meet people like you.
Fucking fantastic.
Sit down, have these cool conversations. Thank you for coming along with our thought experiment, freaks. We rambled a lot there. We talked about things that we may not know or we don't know if they will happen or will not happen. But sometimes it's cool to walk down those paths. That was fun, dude.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Good luck. Good luck in Times Square later today.
Shit.
I wouldn't wish that upon anybody.
It's all right. I'm just gonna bunker down in the hotel.
Yeah. Sweet. What you got? Any parting notes for the freaks out there, Matt?
Citadels will happen. Stay humble and stack sats.
Peace and love, freaks.